Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
Hello, welcome to my podcast. It's May 27, 2020, and I am so happy that I have Lyord Watson of the Penny Foundation located in Birmingham, Alabama as my guest today. Lyord is a social entrepreneur who is always passionate about empowering his community. I'm so excited that I had the opportunity to meet him at a conference in Birmingham. It was what was the entrepreneur? Who we celebrating? What's the name of the entrepreneur?
The A.G. Gaston
A.G. Gaston Conference. Sorry for that memory lapse. A.G. Gaston Conference a couple of years ago, who is one of the great entrepreneurs of the Birmingham area. But anyway, Lyord has a foundation that focuses on giving, and philanthropy is so important to all communities. Social responsibility is important. But we specifically want to engage the African American and Latino communities in the importance of giving and institution building in this particular podcast. So welcome, Lyord. Tell us a little bit about your background and how the founding of, how you got into philanthropy and the founding of the Penny Foundation. Just give us a background about your history and your work.
And hello to you, Ramona. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your podcast. So yes, so again, my name is Lyord Watson Jr., founder president of the Penny Foundation. Penny Foundation was started in 2017, but it's been in the making for quite a while before then. I think the vision started around 2003. It was in 2003 that the Ford Foundation did a listening tour throughout the southeast of the United States to find out how African Americans were spending their access, time, talent, and treasure. And one of their stops was in Birmingham, Alabama. And it was from that tour that two giving circles were started in the South. And one being in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then one being in Birmingham. And so I was a part of the founding of Birmingham Change Fund. And so being a part of the giving circle, it allowed me to engage in institutional philanthropy for the first time. To tell you the truth, it was in 2003 was the first time I actually said the word philanthropy. And it was amazing that, okay, so there's a whole nother world out there of people who are collecting money and giving money away to help charitable causes that I had no idea about. And so it was through learning about institutional philanthropy and seeing how it can be used to empower communities and empower people that I really got interested and passionate about it. In 2007, I started seminary. I started seminary at Beeson Divinity School at Stanford University. And I was in seminary for 3 years from 2007 to 2010. And it was during that time that I began to look for a model of ministry. And I came across a man by the name of Reuben Pettiford. Reuben Pettiford was the pastor of 16th Street Baptist Church in the late 1800s. And in 1890, he started the first Black banking institution in the state of Alabama. And it was called the Penny Savings Bank. And so that bank ran from 1890 to, I believe it was 1915 when there was an economic downturn. And so what was amazing about it is he would take up an offering for the church, and then he would take up an offering for the bank. And then he would go to other churches and take up an offering for the bank. And they pooled those monies together in the late 1800s and started this institution and started making loans out of those receipts and deposits. And so as I looked at the work that I was doing or being a part of with giving circles, And then I began to mesh that with this model of ministry that really seemed to speak to me. I think that's when the vision of the Penny Foundation was born. And so it took 6 years to get it off the ground. Took three tries. The third attempt, we finally got the doors open because it's a big lift. It's a big lift. And so the Penny Foundation is a platform. It's a platform for people to use to invest in the Black community. And so it is a model that's built off of community foundation model. And when we think about community foundations, we think about different funds housed under one entity, invested, and those investments are grown, and then grants are made out of that, and things of that nature. But we also have I call it a hybrid foundation, community foundation, a community chest. And the reason I call it that is because we also do some operations and direct programming as well. So that's kind of the Penny Foundation and its purpose and how we got started.
So when you look at since you've been operating in 3 years, and this is not to call out the Birmingham community, but what has been the response that you have received? Because if philanthropy, the concept is new to you, I'm assuming that it's new to a lot of people. And when you talk about forming a foundation that is of service to the Black community, that's a new concept too for Birmingham, right? So what has been the response, and how do you get people on board to support your foundation?
Yeah, so there's an education component to all that we do, right? I think it takes time for people to grasp what it is that we're actually trying to do. And so I frame it in this way. The first Black banking institution in the state of Alabama, right? The Penny Savings Bank. So it started in 1890 and closed around 1915.
Mm-hmm.
The first community foundation was started in 1914 in Cleveland. So what you have is during this time, you have African Americans starting and building fraternities and sororities and other things. On this other side, you have communities who are building institutions that house and save monies and dollars to reserve for grant making for the future, and investing in their and investing in the things that they'll be interested in going forward. So you have these two things going on kind of simultaneously at the same time. Black wealth during that time, right? You had your charity going through the church, but the church was doing the work in communities, but it still was not building the institutions like community foundations that would last in perpetuity. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the most. That's why I think that's the value proposition that we're talking about, is how do you build a reservoir of funds that lasts in perpetuity. I did not say that correctly,
but we get your point, and that's I would say that's a challenge in the Black community, period, in terms of building institutions, particularly around money, the issue of money, because one of the challenges that we have in the community, and I believe, and many historians point to this in terms of the Black community, is trust around money, because we were taught to be distrustful of each other. So that's a heavy lift to get people to trust, to give their money to an institution that is Black run and by Black people and for Black people. But to your point, that's very important that we build institutions that can last forever, right? Financial institutions. The penny savings bank lasted 25 years. How do we build institutions that can live beyond the challenging times, and get support during good and bad times?
Yeah. And so it's funny when I was doing my research, there was an article that came out in the Chronicle of Philanthropy. It was a long, it was a while ago, but the article broke down giving according to tax returns by zip code. And so I went through the zip code in Jefferson County and began to look at charitable giving, in particularly in zip codes that were majority Black, 75% or more Black. So there were 12 or 11 zip codes that met that requirement. And those zip codes produced like $69 million in charitable giving in 2012. Right? And so what that told me is there's money in Black communities. There's wealth in Black communities. It just doesn't look like wealth that you will find in majority white communities. It's dispersed differently. It's sitting in different places, but somehow, for those communities that you would consider to be poor, by all standards, so you can set the census next to these same in the same zip codes with this same report, and you will see that there are resources and assets there, but you still need an institution in order to help harness, focus, save some, and then being strategic. So when you talk about philanthropy, that's our biggest thing. We have to be more strategic.
Agreed. We give. It's a myth that if people think that African American and the Latino communities don't give, we give. We give to the church. We give to each other in need, right? We pay for the college expenses of our nieces and nephews or the dance classes or whatever. We give our money. We pay for the quinceañeras, the weddings, the bodas, all of that. But like you said, we have to be more strategic in the way we give in terms of institution building.
Yes. And we need those institutions to actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, when you look at the field of philanthropy, you're talking institutional philanthropy, the majority of people don't look like the people they're actually serving, right? And so, when I look at I have to give a shout out to the Association of Black Foundation Executives. I was a fellow in that program and kind of helped shape my equity lens when it comes to equality, particularly around Black people. But who is actually the program officer who's making the grant, right? Who is their supervisor, and do they understand the nuances of the communities in which they are serving? Who's investing the money? And so who are the fund investors and the trust investors? Who is holding and managing and stewarding that money? And so there's institutional philanthropy, just like it says, institution, and that it's important that Black and Latino voices are represented at all levels of the institution, so that the institution serves all people authentically.
So I'd like to kind of grill you a little bit more about that, so you can be more specific. If you don't have people of color at the table in terms of the decision making in the stewardship of the money, how does that affect the community? Meaning, what decisions are the stewards making that are not in the best interest of the communities. What are they doing with the money that would be done differently if people of color were at the table?
So it's not that they're necessarily doing anything different when you're talking about on the investment side, but is they're still not doing any. So whether it is a Black person, why not have a Black person or a person of color invest in the money if they're doing the same thing, right? And so what you're talking about is building exposure. What you're talking about is building other businesses, other even potential funders, right? And so what it does is it still impacts and influences the entire system. And so I look at it from a system-wide approach. And so when you're specifically talking about investments and then programming, but they all work together to build one system. And so at each level, I think representation is important, because it might be a conversation that you're having with your investment manager. To give you, I sit on another board and here in Birmingham, and we have 4 meetings a year, and every meeting, my investment manager or the investment manager comes to the meeting and they give a report. And in that report, they also give, your outlook, your economic outlook, and things of that nature. Well, we're still asking questions because we're dependent on them to be the professional. And so sometimes the questions, they talk about U.S. and international and how is that playing into the market. But there are also some, I would say, more cultural questions that are asked that still, I think that, investment managers have a chance to craft and shape what investment looks like, and particularly for Black communities. So what is the investment and the work that they're doing on the investment side? What does that mean for, and particularly, Black communities? Anybody can do that, right? But are you intentional? Do you think enough about it? Is it a natural part of who you are and what you do and how you approach your work?
Good. So that's an interesting perspective. Now, when you talk about what the African American and Latino communities need to be doing to more of, what are your suggestions in terms of philanthropy? What would you like to see us do as communities in order to advance our philanthropic work?
Yeah. So our natural inclination, I think, is collective. And so I think we have to be more intentional in our collective giving and being strategic with our collective giving. And so I just believe that we recognize and we give, we don't have to give a lot, but give consistently, and give consistently to an entity and organization that's going to put money back into communities and put resources and do this strategic thinking and help shape and mold and move communities forward. And so I encourage people to join more giving circles, start more giving circles, be intentional about groups of people getting together around common causes and issues, putting your money together, and then figuring out how to use that money to leverage other resources to change and create the change of communities that you want to see. Because people empower people. Right?
Good recommendation. Now, we only have a minute left, but could you expand a little bit more on giving circles and what that is for our audience who are not familiar with that concept?
Yeah. So a giving circle is basically, I think, on one side, it's a field of interest fund, right? It's a group of people. Some people who might be related to one another, you might not be related, but they come together around a common cause or a common issue, and they bring their time, their talent, their treasures, and their testimony to it. And so recognize that we might not have a lot of money to give, but we have some money to give. So you bring your treasure. Well, you take that treasure and you make a grant or make a gift to an organization entity, and then what is it that your social capital can you bring to help that organization, right? And how is that captured? Right? So can you help raise money for an organization that you've given $200, $500 grant to? Now you help them raise another $1,000, right, through your social capital, right? As far as talents, right? Are there things that entity, small nonprofit needs, right, that you can that they would have to pay for that you can help provide? Well, now they don't have to pay for it, and they can actually do the service, or not have to worry about their bookkeeping or something like that. So now, they're able to focus on what they were started to do. And then the testimony, right? Share information about it. Talk about it. Talk it up. Share about the good things. And so now you have given in 4 different ways to this one organization as a group of people. Birmingham Change Funds, the Giving Circle, that started in 2003. It was 21 of us. We each put $250 together in a pot. We were young professionals. I don't know where I got $250 from during that time. But somehow it got in there, and that thing grew. I think we've given away, I know, more than 75,000 and raised more than 100,000.
That's good.
It started from 21 people. Right?
That's good.
So, Community Investment Network, being a part of that, it just helped me see a whole different landscape of what we can do if the people who are impacted or being impacted by social issues get involved, organize, and help fund solutions.
Well, thank you so much. We can have a whole extended conversation on giving circles, which I want you to expand on that. If you will come back, will you come back and join us again later?
Most definitely.
And well, thank you so much. This is Lyord Watson of the Penny Foundation out of Birmingham. If anybody wants to contact you or support your work, how would they find you?
So find me www.pennyfoundation.org. So we are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Penny, Penny, Fund, FDN. So PENNYFDN.
Thank you so much, Lyord. Look forward to having you again.
All right. Thank you.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song, NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.